Hello, guys. Today I'd just like to tell you a little bit about my story, about what God has brought me through and how He has saved me through His great, amazing love and mercy and grace. When I was born into two young people's lives. They had gotten married when they were very young, and so when they were 18, they got a great surprise, which was me. Yay! So they were very young at the time, and of course their marriage didn't make it. And so my dad really wasn't in my life. I don't remember him when I was little being in my life. My mom has pictures of him coming back into my life when I was about 5 years old. I remember when he came back in when I was 16. I mean, it was just in and out, in and out. And then when I was about 23, 24, I reconnected with him. I was getting to know him. Had him in my life for a couple of years, and then he passed away from a heart attack. So my biological father was not in my life very often. I don't have very many memories of him. He didn't really know me very well, and I didn't know him very well. And so throughout those periods of time, my mom had gotten married 5 times total. The last one was to my stepfather, which became my daddy. I had fathers come in and out of my life that I didn't understand sometimes why they left, but some of them I did. Some of them were not very kind to me. Lots of men in my life were not very kind to me when I was young. I have been sexually abused. I have been mentally abused. I've been physically abused by several different men in my life. One of them being a stepfather that was in my life. When my mom found out, of course, he was history. I remember her throwing all of his stuff out on the front lawn, and that was it. We never saw him again. But my mom was always there to protect us. My mom was my protector. My mom, I grew up with her. She was young when I was born, and so we grew up together. But throughout my life, I had all those men come into my life, and those things that had happened that made me feel like I was unworthy, filled me with lots of fear and anxiety, filled me with lots of feelings of being unworthy, unwanted by a father figure. Just in those aspects of my life, it was really difficult and really hard. And I didn't have a father. I never did. My mom was everything to me. She's an amazing person, an amazing woman, and I treasure her beyond belief. But this father thing was really tough. And those things that had happened to me, those men telling me that being beaten was my fault because I was always bad, being yelled at and screamed at and called horrible names, telling me that I was too cute. I was too cute of a little girl, and it was my fault that they would do the things to me that they did. So I had built up walls around my heart, walls with bricks that had fear, bricks of unworthiness, bricks of feeling like I was ugly, bricks of feeling like everything was always my fault, bricks of feeling unwanted, ashamed, like I didn't matter. And so because I had those walls built up around my heart, I didn't let anybody in. I let my mama in. She always knew when I was hurting. She always knew what was going on. She always was there for me when I needed her, but I distrusted men my whole young life. Then I was 12 years old. My mom met my stepfather, who became my daddy, who was there for everything in my life. He was there for my proms and my graduations. He was the one who bought me my first diamonds. He would take me out on dates and tell me how much I was loved, how much I was cared for. He was there for the birth of all my children. He was just an amazing and wonderful man that God put in my life at a time that I would really need one. And so when I was also 12 years old, just right after they had gotten married, I had the blessed privilege of going to stay with my grandma for a little bit. I loved going to her house, me and several of my cousins. And she decided to take us to a revival at a little church there in the Nakoma Park, Oklahoma area. It's a teeny tiny place. And so we went to church every night. And we were able to just have fun and just to be with her. I think she was just trying to keep us busy. But we went every night, and it was 5 days, Monday through Friday. And throughout that week, the pastor was talking about aspects and attributes of God. And while he was doing that, of course, I was kind of listening, here and there. But I was like any other kid. I was fumbling through the hymnal, looking at the words and stuff, and fumbling through my grandma's Bible and talking with my cousin every once in a while. My grandma would go, "Shh, be quiet, be quiet." Anyway, and so, just being a kid. And but as the week progressed on, I saw my grandmother go up front. I saw my aunt go up front, one of my cousins. I saw my brother go up front, and I thought, wow, I don't know what you guys are doing. That seems kind of crazy. And so I didn't quite understand about everything, but some of it was getting in. And then on the last night, we went, and they fed us because it was the last night. I thought that was cool. We ate, anything for food. And then we went in and sat down, and I don't know why this was different, why the night was different, but it was. And this lady got up there, and she sang a song. And she sang a special, and it was called Special Delivery. Some of the words are this: I'm coming, special delivery, wrapped up in love, bound by a promise, and sealed by a dove, filled with the Spirit, and carried by grace. And you will know where I am going by the look on my face. You see, I was always a scared, shy little girl, and so that look on my face was not something I wanted everybody to know where I was going. And then she said, you would be coming special delivery. Never felt special. Never felt like I was anything really. And so for someone to think I was special, I started paying attention. So then the pastor gets up there and he starts talking about an attribute of God, about God being our Father. Okay, I was really listening now. I had men coming in and out of my life. I had no one I could trust on that side of my life. And so he started talking about God being our Father. He started talking about attributes of God and about attributes of a Father. How a Father was loving and kind and protective, sacrificing. That he was disciplinary, but disciplinary out of love for us. And that we would be inheritance to his throne and to his kingdom if we knew him. And that we could come and be with him in paradise someday. And that fathers never leave their children. I'm just like hooked here and crying. My grandma asked me, what's going on? I said, oh, nothing, I'm just feeling sad. So she put her arms around me and we continued to listen. Then I had really never heard John 3:16 before in my whole life. I had heard it mentioned here or there, but I didn't know what it was. I hadn't memorized it. My children memorized it when they were tiny, and most kids do when they're in church. And I had just never been in church that much. And so he started quoting John 3:16 as telling me about the love that God the Father had for me. And he was telling me, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but will have everlasting life. And he started talking about how God loved us so much that he sent the most precious thing he could to the earth to take the punishment and the penalty for the sin that we have in our lives. And that he loved us so much that he sent that precious thing to us. That we didn't have to pay the penalty for our sin. That somebody else would do it for us. I had never had anyone take anything from me. When I would get in trouble and when I was being abused, that was all my fault. No one was taking that punishment from me. I was taking all of that punishment from myself. But here was a pastor telling me that God loved me so much that he sent the most precious thing he had, his Son, to take the penalty for me. And I didn't have to be good right now, that God was going to take that for me. And I didn't have to pay for it this time. So I said, I got to know this, Father. You see, I didn't come for salvation because I was scared of my sin, or I was scared and fearful for going to hell. I came because I wanted to know this kind of love. I wanted to know this Father who would love me that much, who would sacrifice a piece of himself for me. And so the invitation came, and my shyness and my scaredness was still all within me. Anxiety was welling up inside of me. I was holding tight to the back of that pew thinking, I know I'm supposed to go, but I don't think I can. Then all of a sudden they get up to sing the invitation. It talks about the song, Just As I Am. You don't have to be something different. Come just as you are. So with all my fears, all my anxieties, my big old wall that wrapped my heart, that I had built over years of insecurities, unworthiness, and fear, I set myself out in the middle of that aisle, and I walked down to the pastor, and I said, Pastor, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I want to know God as my Father. I want to take that gift that you were talking about. I want to take it so that I can be clean before God, and so that He'll want me as His child. And He directed me over to the youth minister, and we sat and we went through the Roman road. And as we were going through that, I realized the weight of my sin. I realized that I had hurt God by the bad things I had done in my life, and that I wanted to change that because I wanted that love that He demonstrated for me. I wanted that to be mine, and I wanted to have a Father who would never leave me, who would never forsake me. And so at that very moment, when I was 12-year-old, standing at the front of that, kneeling in the front pew, I asked Jesus into my heart. And ever since then, from now until that moment long ago, I have lived my life for the Lord. Now, I have messed up. I have made mistakes. I have had to ask for forgiveness. I have gone wrong directions. I have not sought His counsel every moment of every time. But He's never left me. He's always talked to my spirit and my heart, had the Holy Spirit revert me around and say, okay, Janan, let's go the right way. But I know at that very moment, He came into my life. And I would forever have a Father. I would have one who would always have my best interests at heart, who would always discipline me when I needed it, who would provide for me when I desperately needed it, and who would always be in my heart. And I know that I am His child. I know when this life is over, when this body is gone, that my spirit will live forever with Him in heaven. I try to walk every day of my life with Him, reading His Word, growing and maturing as I walk. And I pray that for you too. So as you're learning about different people's stories, and as you have just heard my story, don't keep your story silent. Some things might be hard in your story, but some things are glorious in your story. I have a glorious life. I don't think about those past things anymore. You know why? Because that moment when I was 12 years old, I was delivered from all of that was done in the past. And yes, I still worry sometimes. I still let anxiety get me a little bit here and there, but I know who the source is who can take all that away. Those walls have been destroyed, and I no longer live in fear, but I live in victory and redemption because God has saved my soul. Thanks for listening.